Welcome to the Quick Stop Formula One podcast. My name is Nyasha, and you could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that. Joining me, she's back, as always, is co-host and co-founder Tandy. How are you? How's it going?
I'm good, thank you. Happy Sunday, as I always say, if you're listening on your way to school, on your way to work. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. And make sure you give us a like for the video, subscribe, all of that. We are joined by a very special guest today. This guy is one of the most premier F1 YouTubers on the planet. He's a great guy. He's part of the Valtteri team doing a lot, and he does a lot on his own channel. It is Mr. Aldas. How's it going? Let me get
that intro. That was just next level. Proper big me up for this.
There you go. There's the applause for you as well. Look at that.
That's sick. I love it. Yeah, thanks for having me on. I can't wait to get into this one. Should be a pretty good one. So yeah, thanks for having me on.
No worries, man. Absolutely, absolute pleasure to have you on. So we had on our hands for this podcast today a very intriguing and interesting French Grand Prix to break down. And I guess, Aldous, I'll start with you. Before the race started, what were your hopes of us actually having, I guess, the spectacle that we had today?
I mean, first of all, obviously, I think quite a few people, I was hoping for a wet race because Formula 3 at 10 o'clock, 10:30 or something was in the wet. That was a really good race, carnage everywhere. And I mean, obviously going into Paul Ricard, let's just keep it 100. It's not the best circuit in the world. Sometimes it really does underdeliver, the past two races especially. But do you know what? It delivered for sure. I mean, Max and Lewis on the front row, that always delivers something spicy. And we've seen them go head to head quite a lot this season. And once again, we saw them go wheel to wheel, which is always great. And it was definitely a race of strategy, but yeah, it was a good one. So I'm happy.
Oh man, it was an incredible race. From the get-go, it had us on our feet, on our toes, edge of our seats. I'll go with that one. Tandy. Yeah. Max Verstappen ends up winning after losing the lead in the first corner, but he's ended up winning for some reasons we'll probably get into later.
We'll get into,
But I guess for you, as an overall, what were your thoughts on the Grand Prix? I guess without
because obviously we'd hyped it up and we'd said how boring France is. Guys, I wasn't bored. Were you bored? I wasn't bored. I mean, and the result was very interesting. I'll tell you, the last two laps were even. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was intense all the way to the finish.
No, it was absolutely thrilling to the finish, and I think it's part of the allure of this season is that you cannot make any predictions, no matter what you think is normal or what you think. This is supposed to be a Mercedes track, but this season, what is even a Mercedes track anymore when they can't really seem to get a footing, in any race, and Red Bull. Just doing so well, and even the back markers, everyone in midfield. We're looking at Mclaren, Aston Martin, Alpine, AlphaTauri with Gasly, Ferrari. We just don't know what order these guys are going to finish in, and it is great. But there's so much to get into, and I feel like there's going to be some really good discussion within the picks that we have today. So, as the guest, Aldas, I'll let you have the first star of the day. And this can be, it doesn't have to be a driver. It can be a thing that was good. But what for you was a standout or good performance or good thing that happened today?
Do you know what? I'm going to go with just as a package, just Red Bull in general. And that includes the team, the strategist, the pit crew, and Max and Checo as well, because they all they nailed it. And I think the biggest thing for me is not just kind of their pace or even the result. It's the fact that I was very critical of them after Spain because I felt like they really did miss a trick. Once again, it was that classic Mercedes have nothing to lose. Lewis Hamilton pits, and then guess what? He chases Max down and he wins it. And Red Bull go, oh, what could we have done? But this time they reacted, they were proactive. They went for the strategy. Their pit crew just keep nailing it. I think it was someone said that they have so far this season the 5 quickest pit stops just in total. Just Red Bull have them. And I think 3 of the 5 are already sub 2-second pit stops. So just in general, it was a great strategy. Just a little mistake by Max in that first corner. He just said that he just lost it a little bit, but he definitely made up for it. And again, on a track where apparently this was supposed to be a Mercedes track, and I think they'll be disappointed a little bit, to not get a little bit more out of this race. But I think Max, he did obviously a great job as he's been doing this season. Red Bull nailed the strategy. They really did they pitted him from the lead of the race. So that is always a big risk. They just handed a 1-2 to Mercedes in a sense, and he was able to make it work. And Checo was right there at the end to pick up the 3rd place podium as well. So that is what they've been missing. And just in general, I feel like Red Bull, I feel like they have something that Ferrari in 2017 and 2018 didn't. Red Bull do have their critics, and rightly so. Obviously, we know Christian Horner, he's a bit of I quite like Christian Horner just because he's a bit of spice in the paddock. He's kind of like the evil one, just everyone hates him, and it just adds something different to the paddock. It's like him versus Toto. Lewis and Max seem to be quite chill together, so that's kind of like the polar opposites, but they are a good team. They are a solid World Championship team that now with Sergio Perez just seem to be great from the top down. So just a great weekend by Red Bull, and 3 wins in a row now as well for them. I think it was, Monaco, Baku, and now this one as well. So they're on a roll, and Mercedes are on the back foot, which I quite like because I like to see Lewis Hamilton and especially Valtteri Bottas kind of have to fight out of the corner. So for me, it's Red Bull as a whole.
No, how eloquent was that? That was absolutely brilliantly put. And so good. I could
honestly, you're not just gassing me up this entire episode.
I could listen to you talk all day, brother. That was incredible. So, but no, I think did they say it was the first time that Lewis Hamilton hasn't won for 3 races since 2019? Probably during the Ferrari and Leclerc phase between Belgium and Singapore, I think. So, it is looking like Red Bull, I guess, are the team to beat. Tandy, how impressed were you with I guess, the whole Red Bull package?
Do you know what I mean? Going off of Aldas's perfect speech. By the way, Aldas, you should really probably get into journalism for the speech because you're really good at that. So the guy who impressed me today was the wonderful Mr. Checo Perez. How can you not love him? What a guy, squeezing in that 3rd. That is my actual champion for today. But I definitely agree that Red Bull strategy, guys. Strategy. It was slightly embarrassing for us Mercedes fans, but it was like, look, this is what we should. They got it. Do you know what I mean?
Look at your age mates.
Look at your age mates. You know what I mean? I can't, every time we come on here, we want to defend the Mercedes, but guys, we can't. We are disappointed to parents today, and fair enough. Strategy from Red Bull, amazing.
And not just with. I think you're right. Pitting someone from the lead is risky business. Anything could go wrong in that pit stop. You could lose the lead, like I say, hand them a 1-2 in the play. But not only it's the synergy between the 2 drivers. So Checo from the start knows he's going long. He can see him. He's dropping back. He's not on. He's not struggling to keep up with the pace as certain other drivers did, blowing their tires out, forcing them to stop him before the leader. We'll get on to that. But he goes long and he knows, okay, Checo, plan A plus 3. So he's gone even longer than he needed to in that first stint. And he's reaps the benefits of that later. I guess again with Max and that strategy. So, they've got elements of planning it and they've got elements of reacting during the race. And, they've both come up trumps and, got them from a position of 2nd and 4th. They have turned that into 1st and 3rd. And it's just, it's incredible. It's crazy that Honda are going to bow out at the end of this season after delivering a better engine than Mercedes. We've waited all this time for someone to make an engine as good as Mercedes. Half the grid have got Mercedes engines because they just, what else can we do? And Honda are pulling out. It's crazy. But no, well done to. And I guess does that dispel? I guess as we're talking about Red Bull, I'll ask you both: does it dispel the notion of the cursed second seat in Red Bull, Tandy?
So that's what I was actually going to talk about. I think Perez may have broken this curse, you guys. I genuinely believe it is his seat. It was always his seat, and he's gone into the house. He's taken the cross, the crucifix. He's put the holy water in. It's not haunted anymore. It's not haunted anymore. Nice. He's really gone in, and he's just great, isn't he? He's fabulous. Yeah,
he is awesome. Aldas, did you believe in the? I guess did you always believe that Checo would come in and be able to get up to speed with the Red Bull, or are you, I guess, surprised by how well he's bedded in after 6-7 races now?
Yeah, I think it's been 7 races
or
6 or something. Yeah. I always trusted Checo because he's just been such a solid driver. I've kind of talked about this so much. I'll kind of answer the two questions in terms of like the Red Bull curse. Yeah. I don't know what I thought of the Red Bull curse. I think it's just a combination of going into Max Verstappen's team. I mean, he is such a good driver. It was never going to be easy. Yes, the car maybe was catered a little bit towards him, but at the same time, he wasn't exactly loving the car in 2019 or 2020 either. It wasn't as if he was challenging for the championship. So yes, and I think it was just the combination of all of these things. And also Gasly and Albon were young. I mean, they were so young. They were so raw talents. They definitely deserved the call up at the time. I don't think it was wrong to kind of put them in that position because, again, whatever criticisms you have of Red Bull, at least they do give their drivers chances. I mean, think of how many drivers have been at Red Bull. And even Alexander Albon now, although he isn't in Formula One, he is still backed by Red Bull. They still fund him. And I want to see him back in Formula One, but maybe that's a bit of a different conversation. I want to see Alex make a comeback. He had a good, by the way, debut in DTM as well. Went from like 14th to 4th. So nice. Shout out to Alex. But in terms of, in terms of Checo, he's had the experience, and I've just been beating the drum of Sergio Perez and how good he's been because he has had to fight in Formula One for such a long time, and he has been so consistent because we talk about Gasly and Norris and kind of these young drivers, and they've had really good past 2 or 3 seasons. Sergio Perez, ever since he kind of got kicked out of McLaren in 2013, he has been killing it since 2014. He's had the likes of Hulkenberg, he's had the likes of Ocon, and then he had the likes of Stroll, and he's beaten every single one of them. So he's always had to fight, and he has deserved that chance at Red Bull so much. And I think it's just validated that decision to put him up there because although you can say that his win in Baku was maybe lucky, this podium he made himself. He overtook, he went long on the first stint, didn't have amazing pace. He did drop back a little bit, but he preserved the tires, and this podium was absolutely his, and a 1-3 for Red Bull. I mean, that's a fantastic result. And again, they just build that gap to Mercedes in the constructors. And like I said, I want to see Mercedes on the back foot because you just know they're going to come out swinging, and it's just going to be an even better season in the second portion as well. So I think Sergio Perez, he still needs to have maybe 2 or 3 just these kind of races, and then to me, contract has to be on the table. I mean,
exactly.
I think at this point, if he doesn't get, I mean, obviously, look, it's a long season, and if his form tails off completely towards the end of the season, then fine. But as you say, Sergio Perez is such a good driver. He's such a consistent driver. We can only see this going on an upward curve. Is that me? Unbelievable. Upward trend, upward curve. And I just think that if he doesn't get the contract for next year, I think that would be criminal on the part of Red Bull, and it's well deserved.
Yeah, mate, he's literally sandwiched. If you look at the grid right now, he's literally sandwiched Lewis between, and it's okay, take this man seriously. He's broken the curse.
No, for sure. Big up Sergio Perez. What a guy. So happy for him. Okay, so Tandy, was Sergio your star?
He was. Yes, he was.
Okay, cool.
He's yours.
Let's just do 2 each. Right, so let's just do 2 each. I'm gonna, or we can just, if there's anyone else after me, then we can say. But my star of the day is going to be, okay, if you're going to say Red Bull, I'm going to say McLaren are my stars of the day. I was trying to choose between, and I want to say Ricciardo, because in the preview pod, we had a conversation and we said, what is going on with Ricciardo? Is this something that do we have to write off the rest of this season and just say he's going to have to get used to it? This is a big job for him. But I think that at a track where he's probably more comfortable and at a track where, it seemed to suit the McLarens in terms of race pace, I think he's had a really good couple of days qualifying and in the race. And I think letting Lando through as well, he didn't have to be told to do it. He just realised that, as part of the strategy, it would work better. And then Lando, I think he was outside of the top 10 after the first lap, I think. And then he's had to fight back on strategy. And I think either all or most of his places were kind of made up on track. So, at a place that people say is notoriously hard to overtake, Lando Norris made his strategy work, McLaren 5th and 6th. And I just think, well done to McLaren. Again, showing that they are a really good racing outfit. I think, the days of, it wasn't that long ago, McLaren were a joke. They were a joke. There were memes, the Alonso stuff, GP2 engine. Yeah. They were the second worst car on the grid. It was ridiculous. And
the boys are doing good.
They are, and I think under Zach Brown and Andrew Seidel, I think they've done really well. So they're my stars of the day. I'm loving. I don't know. I'm loving Lando's progress, and I'm happy for Ricciardo on a level, because I think it pains everyone to see Ricciardo struggle.
Me.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, Ricciardo did so well. If we're gonna talk about a second favorite, it will definitely be Ricciardo. Did anyone see him overtake Lando twice on the first lap?
Yeah.
They don't see that.
And to be fair, the first little bit of the race, there was a bit of fight in the McLarens, because I think it was later on when kind of Ricciardo let Lando through. But that first kind of half of the race, there was a little bit of, there was a bit of this is Lando's team, but I'm not backing down. I'm not here to finish next to you. I'm here to finish in front of you. So I'm not saying there's any beef starting or anything, but there's definitely just a little bit of fight in there. And I think the more that Ricciardo gets up to speed, he wants to be world champion at McLaren. Doesn't want to be, the number 2 guy next to Lando. So I'm so interested to see how their relationship is going to develop. So I think that's going to be quite interesting.
I think that it's, I said this before. I said, everyone thought it was going to be Bantam FC because of who those two are individually. But, Lando's kind of, I think, made a very pointed decision to not, immediately, be that or offer that in terms of, in how he's in the media, a lot more serious in the media now. And in terms of his relationship with Daniel, it's very much, I'm here to do my job. Obviously, we'll get along and we'll share information where necessary. But, that could become a prickly situation. The better Ricciardo becomes, the more they're fighting over, best of the rest, and especially if, they're fighting over potential podium places, if that's there to be picked up, it could become a very prickly situation at McLaren. And they've both got multi-year contracts, so, no one's going anywhere. I love Ricciardo. I mean, I love Lando, but he does have to also remember he's dealing with the honey badger. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
The sky.
And we saw a little bit, the late braking as well. It came back a little bit.
The honey badger is smiley on, when you see him on the interviews and stuff, but the honey badger is a vicious animal, my guy. Yeah? Remember that.
Facts. Oh man, I cannot wait to clip that. So, no, but it's true. And big up McLaren. I just think they are, they're just performing at a really consistent level. Lando has got, he's the only driver to get points every race this season as well. I
think so, yeah.
So, considering...
And he's still in front of Bottas, by the way, in the championship. He's still in front of Valtteri. So that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it is.
Shocked by that?
Well, it's... I don't want to say I'm shocked given this season, but I guess it shows And also, I don't want to be harsh on Valtteri because Monaco wasn't his fault, and that's like
I've been listening to this podcast. Don't worry, there's been a bit of that Valtteri slander, and to be fair, I'm saying it, but I'm part of it as well. I will say though, props to Valtteri. He did kind of come back this weekend. Like, he did a decent job in the end, and he was the guy actually that said in Mercedes, like, we need to go to a 2-stop. So he did have a bounce back weekend, and he really stuck close to Lewis as well, and obviously got unlucky in the end with like the strategy and everything. So he did bounce back a little bit, but yeah, it still doesn't look good that Lando is still ahead of him after 7 races or something. So yeah,
it's not right. And I don't want to get into Bottas every race, but
Tandy every does.
Do you know what I will say though, guys? It did kind of. I just felt a bit sorry for him. I could hear him on the radio, and he was like, "I told you guys," and it was like, "Oh, bless him." Like, do you know what I mean? Like, he did say it. So, to be fair for him, kudos.
Okay, you know what? Let's just get into it. Let's just talk about it. We all had. I guess we all had Mercedes. I guess as a bad thing that happened this weekend in terms of strategy. I guess just struggling across the weekend, which is looking like it's going to be a constant theme of them searching for performance through practice and into qualifying. Aldas. Ooh. I'm going to try and word this. So I'm going to try and shoot them some bail. Okay. Do you think that Mercedes cost themselves victory today? Did they cost themselves victories, or do you think that given the pace of the Red Bull and given that the lack of performance they had on straights and they couldn't pass Max in a straight fight, I guess are we just beating up on Mercedes because obviously we're Mercedes fans and we want the best for Lewis, we want the best for Mercedes, or is there blame to be attached to the strategists and just the team's performance this weekend?
I mean, whenever like Mercedes don't finish first and second, there's always going to be blame somewhere because they've set the bar so high over the past 7 years that every single little mistake is going to be analysed. And I think in this close title battle between Red Bull and Mercedes, the pressure is on even more. Every single decision has to be right. So whilst last year they can get away with a 50-second pit stop in Sakia and lose the race, I mean they won like 14 races that season anyway, so it's okay. But they cannot be. But with Monaco and everything, they really lost a lot of points with Valtteri, and yet again it is a weird one because there's no doubt that Mercedes they have to have a lot of blame because both Lewis after the race said, guys, I said before the race, this is going to be a 2-stop. The tyres are not going to hold on. And Valtteri straight away was the first one on the radio to say, put me on a 2-stop. So, and James Vowles, I think, came on the radio at the end and said, this one's on us, Lewis. So I'm sorry. So they definitely have to take a huge portion of the blame. But at the same time, when I was watching it, and I've got to be honest, I mean, especially that first one, it's easy to say now that Lewis should have pitted immediately, and I think he pitted a lap after Max. But even as I was watching it, he had, I think, a 2.5 second gap to Max. Now, don't get me wrong, the undercut was always going to be powerful, but to make up 2.5 seconds, that's huge. I don't think anyone saw that coming, so that's actually a pretty nice gap to have. But they got jumped, and then it was quite interesting. So, yes, I blame that on Mercedes, but me personally, even at the time, I thought Lewis was going to be safe. I mean, it was always going to be close, but I thought he was going to be safe. And then on the second one, Red Bull jumped them first. There is no doubt in my mind that Lewis and maybe Valtteri as well, at one point, maybe 2, 3, or 5 laps after Max actually pitted, they would have pitted, they would have done that kind of undercut and chased Max down to the end. But Red Bull kind of, they just completely flipped the script on them and pitted first. So that kind of went out the window completely. And in the end, I think that's, although maybe you can say that maybe they weren't as bad as many people are making it out to be, I still think that in the end, Lewis had the pace. I do think the car was there. I mean, he was leading the race. Yeah. And I think they just dropped the ball. But in the end, just to kind of end this off, I mean, they still finished second with Lewis. So, that's a bad weekend for Lewis Hamilton. Second. Yeah. And Valtteri got unlucky in the end. So it could have been a lot worse, but they need to get their, together. They need to get it together for the next ones.
100%. It's strange seeing Mercedes like this. Like,
weird, isn't it?
It's, I mean, for me, it's the struggles in practice that are weirding me out. Like every race weekend, we're coming in off the pace in practice. We're talking like tenths of a second, like off the pace, like, you know, closer to a second off the pace than they should be. And then because they're always struggling, it just never feels like you go into a race thinking, okay, Mercedes kind of know the best window that their car should be set up in, and I think that's affecting them. But it's very strange. Tandy, what did you make of Mercedes' performance?
I thought it was embarrassing, guys. Yeah. As I said, this is definitely a conversation where we were a bit like...
Doesn't hold back, just straight up.
Yeah,
embarrassing.
It was. Guys, I feel like we have years where we could have done this, but just not this year. You've got to be conscious that this year is a very special year for Lewis, and it seems like Lewis, as we said before, this is a bad race for Lewis where he finishes second, but we really need that team support. What happened in Monaco with Valtteri Bottas was terrible.
Yeah,
guys, this can't continue to happen. It's embarrassing. As I said, yeah. I mean,
it's not good enough. It's not good enough.
Going back on obviously the point that you made on Twitter, Nyasha, before when you said that they're making no changes to the car. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. Someone wanted to discuss that as well. I will find the tweet later. But yeah, someone was actually saying, and I'll bring it up now, but that essentially that with 2022 and the regulation changes coming up, Mercedes have made the decision that essentially because of, they were put into a corner by the regulation changes, but instead of them being able to work through these issues through development, then you have limited development tokens, you have a budget cap. So all these things, Mercedes have made a decision to say, you know what, this season we're not going to put anything into the season. It works better for us to develop the car for next season and beyond, because those are going to be much like the hybrid era when they basically didn't develop in 2013 and just put everything into 2014, and it's worked out well for them, and they're doing the same. For me, I think the point that I made, and I understand it, and I think on paper I get it, absolutely get it. That's the right thing to do. For me, I feel like we don't know how many years of Hamilton we have left in this sport. I think at a push, I'm going to say 2 more seasons after this season. I think max. So for me, wasting a season of Hamilton, of having a driver like Hamilton, I know it's for the future, but for me, it's just this feels like a waste. And they can't keep expecting Hamilton to bail them out on strategy, and they can't keep expecting Hamilton to be able to take the fight to Red Bull, who are going to continue developing the car. And it's just not going to be a good look for the team, no matter what they say. They can't just say, oh, well, we didn't develop the car. At the end of the day, you're 7 times world champs in a row. This, you need to do better. So I get it in theory, but my heart doesn't like it. Aldas, what do you think of Toto's insistence that they're not developing the car this year? And do you believe it? I guess.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think Mercedes are one of those teams that they're prepared for the cost cap. They've had something. They've definitely planned for it well in advance. They're definitely developing their 2022 car right now. And I think I do get what they're doing, because again, at the end of the day, they still have a good car. There's no doubt they could have won that race, and Lewis Hamilton, with just ridiculous time management as he always does, and the way he followed Max, he was 2 laps away from winning that race anyway. So it's not as if Red Bull are now just blowing them out of the water. That is it, season over. They've still got a very good car, and at one point Red Bull are also going to have to stop developing this car. So I don't think it's all over. I think yes, it is a bad race because Lewis finished second and Valtteri was off the podium, but the car is still good enough to finish the championship. And Yes, obviously Lewis, I think we have 2 or 3 years max, but they also need to look ahead of Lewis. And so they need to set themselves up for the next era, for the next 5 or 6 years of Formula One. So I totally get what they're doing. Of course, you want to see the car get better, but it's still good enough to win the championship this year. So I don't think it's all over, but yeah, I totally get it.
And he's back.
What did I want to? You're right, and it's going to be a curious thing to watch them develop the car this season. Athena, we mentioned Bottas before, and Athena mentioned something about Bottas's pace in the race. He showed good pace, but he has what would appear to be a tire conservation issue. Now, I think you're right in Aldas in that he was calling for a 2-stop for ages, and it reminded me of, I can't remember which race it was last season where Ferrari essentially just left Vettel out. He was supposed to do a 2-stop, and then they were last minute like, can you do a 1-stop? And he was like, why? You should have told me like laps ago. I would have like.
Yeah, I think it was like in Catalonia or something. I remember he came on the team radio. Yeah.
And it kind of reminded me of that day where obviously in his mind he's driving towards something else, and then he is told, well, actually no, you're gonna have to do a 1-stop now. But it's not the first time. That he's kind of run his tires out. I distinctly remember, I think Portugal this year. I think even Portugal last year, there was an issue with that as well. I think Hockenheim as well, potentially. But given that Sergio Perez is so good with his tires, do you think that it's going to become an issue for strategy that Mercedes don't have that in their armor? Maybe that someone who can do an offset. Obviously, Hamilton can go long in his tires, but obviously he's the lead driver. Is that going to be an issue for Mercedes, or do you reckon that Valtteri will still be, I guess, the better second driver?
That's a good one. I think obviously with Sergio getting better and better, I mean, he's only going to get better. I feel like Valtteri, we know that he's not the best in wheel-to-wheel racing. We know that his tire management isn't as good, but at the same time, when you look at that race, they should have pitted him in the right strategy. I think it was just the data. Obviously, the engineers thought, 1-stop is going to be fine, and track position is key. No one's going to overtake us anyway. But when you put together the fact that clearly the tires were graining much quicker and things like that, and also the Red Bulls were mighty down the straights, they needed to do a 2-stop, and even Lewis in the end kind of lost the race because he did a 1-stop. So I wouldn't blame that race too much. And again, with Valtteri, it's really difficult for me to judge him because I keep judging him against Lewis Hamilton, who in my opinion is, one of the greatest of all time. And he is like my greatest for sure, the one that, in terms of what I've seen. So it's always kind of difficult to compare him to someone as good as Lewis, but he definitely is going to be a big factor in this championship. And his fight is with Checo. But again, Valtteri does have good pace. I mean, again, he outqualified Checo. He made a good start as well. And he kept up with Lewis, especially after the pit stops. I mean, at one point he was putting Lewis under a little bit of pressure, which was quite good to see. So yeah, I think Valtteri does have what it takes to beat Checo and kind of back Lewis up in this championship, even though he wants to obviously fight for it. But I think we know that's not going to happen. It's just about minimizing the kind of weekends that he had, like in Imola, where he was racing with the Williams, or even at the same time, what was it, in Baku as well? Again, another just terrible weekend, like in terms of pace, nothing to do with accidents or the car, just terrible pace. So he needs to minimize that because he is a decent driver. There's but his fight is with Checo, and he needs to make sure that he has more weekends like this in terms of pace. And the team need to back him up as well, because there definitely seems to be something dropping off a little bit. I feel like Valtteri maybe isn't being listened to as much. He's still a big part of that team.
Love enough. Yeah,
exactly. And I think, regardless of the contract situations, he still needs to be backed up, because at the end of the day, they're a team.
Very true. Tandy, you think Mercedes aren't giving him enough love?
I feel like in the past few races, they've really stepped away from him a bit, and I guess you can't do that because he is actually your driver, I guess. And just hearing him today, just saying I told you guys, you could just hear kind of frustration from him.
He's angry.
But I think there's a theme going on at the moment about Mercedes not listening to their drivers. So we've got issues where I think in Baku, Hamilton was talking, in terms of like setup, they weren't listening to Hamilton about setup, and then they ended up going back to what it kind of was original, like what he said, and it kind of nearly worked out in the end. And Valtteri today saying that the team weren't listening to him, and I don't know, maybe, like we said, stuff like this always happened, right? Because they were so far ahead, it kind of worked out in the end, or because whatever, they were getting 1-2s or 1-3s on like a regular basis. And maybe because now the car's not as quick as it used to be. Red Bull are a very good outfit. Maybe these, like, the way that they communicate or the way that they set up cars is just, I guess, maybe being found out now. But it's just strange. I'm just finding it strange to see Mercedes like this. But it is great for the season. I mean, what a season we are having. We're gonna have. Tandy.
It's entertaining.
It is very entertaining.
Hello.
Tandy, have you got a donkey? Donkey.
Do I have a donkey? My donkey is the Mercedes team, to be honest.
Okay, yeah, cool.
Yeah. The conversation we just had.
Yeah, the conversation we just had.
I think that's all of us, literally.
Yeah.
Like, for me today, I found it quite hard to actually find a donkey, because I thought everyone really gave it that big effort, etc. It could have been Yuki, but I just said let me give him the benefit of the doubt, to be honest. Yeah.
Is it too soon for Yuki in F1?
That's the question we need to start asking. I didn't want to, but I'm glad you said it. Is it too early?
Is it too early? I mean, he did okay. I didn't see his race that much. Was there like an issue towards the end, or was it? I can't remember. But I mean, obviously the spin in qualifying yesterday. He just doesn't ever seem to have like a clean weekend. Yeah. There always seems to be some issue, and obviously he was brought in after a season of F2 where he did well, especially in the feature races. So that's kind of, I guess they were looking at that, and if that translated to F1, obviously it was like a Honda bring-in thing as well, keep them guys happy. But Aldas, do you think it's too soon, or do you think in a season with limited testing and practice and so forth, do you just think that he needs more time?
I mean, first of all, just because, again, got to keep it 100 here, because before the season, one of my like big bold predictions was that I thought that Yuki was going to finish ahead of Pierre Gasly. So it's not looking good so far, but still plenty of races. Plenty of races to go. Long season. We don't need to talk about that. Plenty of races,
I do feel like at the start we were all kind of bigging up Yuki a bit too much, weren't we?
We were.
He did have. He does have the speed. There's no, he's not too slow. He's not like 2 seconds off the pace or something, but he's a little bit, he's definitely a little bit hot-headed. I mean, his crash, it did not happen in his final run of Q3, that final run where you want to get everything, and if you crash, unlucky. It was in the first run, in the first corner of Q1, in his first lap. So it's just little things like that you really don't want to happen. I still think that there is a really good driver in there somewhere. Was it a little bit too soon? Now it does look like yes, but obviously, with different, we have different information now. Clearly, maybe it was just a little bit too soon, and maybe actually AlphaTauri with Pierre Gasly and Alex Albon. I mean, what would that have been like in 2021? That could have been interesting.
Yeah,
I still think that I want to give him a bit more time. If he calms down towards the middle part of the season, if he just gets, if he just stays a little bit more consistent and a little bit more calm-headed, tries to not even go for the big results, even finishing like 10th or 9th or something is still a pretty decent result for him in that car. So I think it's just about him calming down, him maturing, because he is he was the first driver ever in Formula 1 to be born this millennium. So I think he's still like 20 or 21 or something. So Was it too soon? Maybe he is being found out. But the fact is, he is in Formula One. He is here till the end of the season, and I think the team is. I think they actually brought him to Italy. He lives now near the factory, so they're trying to incorporate him more into the team. But yeah, he needs to cut out those mistakes. I mean, someone needs to get a hold of him and just say, just calm down. You got pace, you've got potential. Just calm down a little bit, because there is a good driver in there, I think.
100%. Yeah, I think with Yuki, he just kind of needs to turn around and say, at least for each race, let me at least make top 10. Let me just at least make top 10. I think he's reaching a bit too far. He's got too much expectations from himself. And it's like, we don't expect that from you. It's okay to kind of just, as long as you finish top 10, work with the team, try not to go against them. And it's really sad because everyone just keeps calling him childish and him being the youngest. And you don't need that. Just keep, He's got time, though. Mm-hmm.
He's got time. And I think... over the course of the season, he will. I think he'll work it out, but he needs time in the car, and when you're not, and you need consistency. And I guess when you're not putting together consistent runs and consistent races, it hurts when you're a new driver. And I do feel for him a bit, but he's just I mean, even when he had a lap deleted, I think, in practice, and he was clearly exceeded track limits, and then he was like, no way, I didn't do that, fucking hell.
I think there's a bit of a maturing that still needs to be done. He's clearly a very energetic guy, who's just about that all over the team radio. I mean, sometimes maybe a little bit disrespectful towards, his engineer, where he's like, just shut up, mate, or something like that.
Yeah, that's what I don't like, when he's being disrespectful, and it's like, mate, stop that. They're working really hard for you, and
exactly. I think he still needs to mature a little bit, but again, the pace and the potential, it's there. It's just about how well can AlphaTauri and that team kind of harness that potential towards the end of the season. He could still beat Gasly, I'm hanging on to it.
Mathematically, it's still
possible. We're bringing you back to take that. We're bringing you back to
we'll bring you back Abu Dhabi. We'll be like, okay, season pictures, let's look at them.
They're going to bring me back when he gets when they put Alex in that seat mid-season and he gets thrown out. That's when they're going to bring this back up.
Oh man, I think it's interesting though, because look, Red Bull have got an embarrassment of riches at the moment. With obviously they've got Albon, who's obviously still under contract with them. They've got Lawson, Vips in F2 as well. So there really is a lot of options in that seat. I don't think they'll get rid of Yuki at the end of the season, but especially if Pierre's not going anywhere. I just don't see where I just don't see him getting rid of him. I hope they don't. I'd like to see him, have 2 full seasons and decisions made there. But if anyone's going to make harsh decisions, it's Red Bull. So we will see. Big up Pierre Gasly, by the way, on his result. That was a good result. This guy is
it's backwards. It's backwards cat Pierre. It's backwards cat Pierre. Like, it's just different man in 2021.
The source is unreal.
Do we have the sound effects, Nyasha? Can we get a gun?
Yeah, sorry.
Pierre,
it's Pierre.
Bring it on.
There you go. Hold on.
There we go.
So many. That was great. So I keep forgetting we have them, and I need to utilize them more.
I don't. I wish I had the button so I could just be like.
Every single time Tandy just roasts someone, like the gun sound effect.
This is what
all the time.
This is what I invented. This is what I put it in for. I should, when he called it embarrassing, I should have been like gunshot. Oh, you know what? I'll post edit that shit in. Don't worry. Aldas, obviously we've discussed Mercedes and Yuki. Was there anyone that you thought was below par?
Do you know what? Hang on a minute. I'll get up on the screen because I do have the finishing result. Because that's the thing. I mean, not really. You can look at the likes. I mean, Ferrari, I suppose. No, Ferrari actually, because they qualified quite well, both cars in the top 10. But it's not necessarily their drivers, because I feel like they did okay, but their tires. I mean, their car just rips through the tires. I mean, Charles Leclerc just He's down in P16. Someone put on Twitter, actually, he finished in the same position as his driving number, and that's not good.
Yeah, I saw that.
And yeah, so that is not a vibe. So I suppose Ferrari in a sense, but that car does have pace. I mean, around Monaco was arguably the quickest car. Like Leclerc could have won that race, there's no doubt. So it's not all over, but they need to sort that out, because I think it was Carlos Sainz who said after the race, they've been having this problem since Bahrain. So definitely I think Ferrari have to get a shout out in terms of their time management. I mean, what is that? That car just shreds through tires and the drivers aren't able to do anything. So not good.
Not good. And I guess
known that about that car, to be fair. We've always known that car's mid.
That car is it is pretty mid.
Okay.
Andy, I mean, do you give them some kudos though for, I guess, from where they were? I mean, just from where they were last season, to this season, 2 pole positions. One of them definitely has an asterisk next to it, but two pole positions. Hold on. And they led some of the Baku Grand Prix, and good qualifiers. So they've got pace. They've got 1 lap pace. Do you give them any kudos for that, or I guess is this this is Ferrari? We need to not expect average shit, basically.
That's what I thought, but kudos to them. I thought maybe we shouldn't. Yeah, I'll give them
small kudos.
50 small kudos.
I saw an episode. Wait, I think I saw an episode where Tanya said she hates Ferrari or something like that. So that's big coming from her.
I don't use the word hate. Okay.
I don't.
I think they're overhyped.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, look.
Gunshot sounds.
I'm gonna get it. You know what? I'm gonna give you the reggae dance or air horn, because I hear it. You know what? Ferrari. My issue with Ferrari is that they're in a constant state of development or rebuild. Obviously 2017 and 18 aside, and even in those years they tailed off horribly after the summer break, which is why no one really talks about it as a title fight, because when people think about those seasons, I don't know, some people, they might just end up going to look at the what the end results were, and they see Hamilton winning by 30-40 points, or you look at the results and they tail off horribly, and but even those seasons aside, Ferrari just never seem stable enough to mount serious or have a consistent car over the course of a season. And I think for a team that big, it's really disappointing. They shouldn't be fighting with no disrespect to McLaren. Even McLaren, in a way, people they have a lot of pedigree, should be higher up than they are, but we give them a bit of leeway, okay. But teams like McLaren, teams like Ferrari, considering the budget that they have, I know McLaren have had money issues recently, but considering the budget that they have, especially Ferrari, who have, I think, the biggest budget in the sport, they should be doing a lot better. And I guess I don't get the leeway that they get sometimes on social media. I think people should lay into them more, because like I said, that car it's not good enough. It's not good enough. And for a team that big, for a team that historic, and for all of the power that they have in F1, I just don't think it's good enough. Those are and they were going to be my donkey, actually. I'm just I will say
that, I mean, to be fair though, I mean, at least Carlos Sainz, he's actually because the whole Vettel kind of era, that was really, that did not end really well. And to be fair, with Carlos Sainz coming in, he actually he beat Leclerc both in qualifying and the race at least. So he has definitely been kind of the best one out of the guys going into the new team. So I feel 100%. Like Ferrari are a little bit on the up, and they did say that, Matteo Binotto did say that they're one of the teams where they're 98% looking into 2022. So, but again, Yeah, they've been up and down. I think the reason why they get that leeway online, although they have been roasted quite a bit, especially with what happened with Seb, is because it's just Ferrari. I mean, yeah, they kind of have that protection, don't they, being Ferrari? But at the end of the day, I think 2022 is going to be the big decider. You know, this year, again, they've said that they're focusing fully on next year. So whatever happens, happens. They're still in that fight with McLaren.
Yeah.
But 2022 is going to be like the big test.
Aldous, go on, sorry.
No, after you.
I was just going to say, Aldous, you met Charles, yeah? I stalked your Instagram.
Yeah.
When was that?
Cool. How was that?
29. Well, when I say met, I mean that's a bit, you know, just chilling with him. You know, he's kind of like
boys.
He posted you on his Instagram, so I guess you guys are friends now.
Yeah, exactly. We've been chatting, mate. We've been chatting. That's why I'm defending Ferrari. What do you think I'm defending?
Yeah, of course.
But no, that was 2019 at Autosport, at the beginning of 2020, an Autosport event, and I just took a picture of him, and it was actually, the funny thing is, like, because you can see my phone in the picture was terrible. I mean, terrible quality, like super blurry. You can't even tell that it's him. Like, it could be just any random guy in a Ferrari t-shirt. And then all of a sudden, I saw that someone obviously, you know, one of the Ferrari media guys took a picture of us and then posted it on his Instagram, and I was like, mate.
Yes.
Yay.
That is it.
Yeah, you know, we're kind of besties. We've been DMing backwards and forwards. He's going to be all right, you know.
Yeah, he's fine. You got the inside track. That's all good. What I was going to say was that 2022, look, the way everyone is putting everything into next season, I'm looking forward to seeing what we get, because someone's got to be shit. That's literally what I was thinking. Like, not everyone can be good. Not everyone can pull everything. Like Haas, Williams, like all these teams are like banking on, like, it is the golden ticket, and some teams are going to be I think we're going to see either towards the end of 2022 or even in the middle, probably not in the middle, but towards the end of 2022, we're going to see, I think at least 3 team principals are going to leave or get fired because
gunshots.
I'm telling you now. You're not getting fired. I'm telling you now, because still going. So I'm telling you no, because like all these like chairmen, all these owners are okay, cool, I'm going to back you financially. Okay, I believe your plan that if we do XYZ next year, we're going to, you know, have a car that's going to elevate us from where we are on the grid to where we want to be. And at the end of the day, like, not everyone is going to be able to do that. Some people, no matter how hard they try, are either going to stay in the same place, or then they may even go backwards because of how well other teams are doing. So I just think it's going to be, I think someone's going to have to take responsibility for that in the eyes of the owners. You know, we've got Daddy Stroll. He's not going to, if Aston Martin are still struggling next year, I can't see Otmar staying in that job much longer. It already feels pretty precocious. Binotto, if Ferrari don't improve next season, I can't see him in that position much longer. Gunter, if Haas do not improve after these like last 3 seasons, I mean, bro. So yeah, those are just my thoughts on 2022. I do want to give a shout out, actually. I just looked at the full race results. George Russell in 12th on a normal race day. Like, no one's dropped out. He's done that on pace, on strategy, in a Williams. I just think that is, it's a shame that no one dropped out in like the top 10 and, you know, to give him a point. But Aldas, what do you? I know that you're a big George Russell fan.
Yeah.
What do you say? You can say that just a little bit. Just a little bit.
What did you make of George's performance?
I mean, first of all, George Russell, he's special, man. I know he's choked away a few results. There's no doubt about it. I'm not running away from that. But I mean, the guy, if you take away Sack here, the guy has outqualified his teammates in every single race he's ever been at since 2019. That's almost 2.5 years of whitewashing teammates. And the thing is, I know that, you know, like Latifi is not the greatest driver in the world, but at least one quali session in the past like year and a half. So the guy does have talent, and I think it's just about, and we saw what he can do in a Mercedes in just one race where he isn't even comfortable in the car. So Yeah, I've been massively on the George Russell hype train because I see the potential. It's very easy to talk about, Lando when he was in a really good McLaren, or even Alex Albon when he was in the Red Bull, but I could see the potential in that Williams and what he was able to do against his teammate. And this P12, this was big, and he actually had a bad start because I think he was behind Latifi in the first 10 or 20 laps. So he managed to fight back. Clearly the strategy was working. And the reason why this P12 is such a big result is because after Baku, both of the Williams drivers had a problem. I think he had a gearbox issue and Latifi had this crazy penalty because his engineer got something wrong. Haas actually jumped Williams in the Constructors' Championship because Mick Schumacher was finished in 13th place. So that was kind of crazy. And they jumped ahead of Williams. And with this P12, Williams jumped back ahead of Haas because they cannot finish behind Haas. That would be an absolute failure of a season. So it was a big result. Again, with no retirements, it was a really good performance. And mate, King George, I want to see him in that Mercedes. Him and Lewis Hamilton. I mean, not only is that that would be an absolute crazy driver lineup, but that would be spicy. That would be very, very spicy.
Yeah, it feels like we talk about George on this pod every race, and it's always, I guess, because of Bottas, but it's nice to talk about him because of something that he's done and a good performance on his side. And, someone asked, who I thought was going to be in that Mercedes seat next season. And, I said, if it's anyone other than George, I would be really surprised. I think even for Bottas's sake, I just think that relationship is, like you said, Tandy, becoming a bit toxic now. And I just think they need to change it. And if it's anyone other than George in that seat who does replace Bottas, I'd be really surprised. But
I've definitely recently bought a ticket to the George Russell train.
Jumping on.
No.
Pardon?
I did hear a few episodes ago a bit of slander from Tandy about George Russell.
It wasn't slander. It was just more of, let's see how he goes. Do you know what I mean? And then between that, we obviously had Lando got the multi-year contract. It was like So I bought the ticket.
Wow.
It's open return, so I can hop on anytime.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
I might use it. I might hop on the train. I haven't got a first class seat. It's a standard seat. It's a window seat.
Mate, I'm in the pilot seat. That's where I am. I'm in the pilot seat.
They're feeding you shrimp in the back. That's where you are. I'm
chilling.
Oh man, I'm glad to hear it. I guess, what will be really interesting? Yeah, I mean, it'll be so interesting to see that next season. I think he deserves. I think he deserves it, and I think that. I just think it would be good. It would be good to see. I'm still not sold on. I'm not sold on him being able to go in and maybe match Bottas's performance over a season. But I don't think it would be fair to expect that. But I know you think he's got crazy talent, and I agree he's got crazy. I would like. What I know can happen in F1 very quickly is people can build you up, and then they will really enjoy bringing you down. And if the performance is, if it takes some time for him to get used to it, if he's maybe struggling at first or whatever, or even if the Mercedes this season is difficult to set up, I don't want that to hit on his confidence and Mercedes have questions like, oh, have you made the wrong decision? Oh, are you going to be bringing in someone halfway through and so forth? So hopefully he gets the space to be able to develop into the driver that we all think he could be. So there was a couple of tweets that I wanted to read out before we go on to predictions. So someone asked that very boring race at Paul Ricard in the past. what exactly caused today's race to be exciting? And what can F1 do to ensure entertaining races at traditionally boring tracks in the future? And that was from Anne D. Lil Leadfoot. Tandy, I'll come to you.
Do you think it might have been entertaining because we were kind of just watching Mercedes embarrass us, and it was kind of like, oh, a bit of spice? Because I don't want to see that constantly, Andy, I'm afraid. Sorry, Andy.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. I think like the tire situation at the moment with Pirelli, they're getting the selections correct. It's not always like such a clear choice between one stop or two stop strategies. It's kind of on the knife edge, and that's what's creating these offsets. I think like we had in Bahrain, like we had in Spain, like we've got now, it's good to have different strategies. And I think, it's boring at races which are, hard to overtake if people just come in lap 14, 15, and then just do 40, 50 laps on the hards. Like no one wants that. Aldas, what do you think? What made today entertaining? What do you think F1 could do to make things more spicy at traditionally boring tracks?
I mean, I think obviously the first thing is the fact that we do have two teams going against each other, because even though we did have that in 2018, Seb actually crashed into Valtteri on the first lap, and so for Lewis it was kind of like it was a bit of a walkaway. So that's why it was a little bit boring in 2018. In 2019, it was just a Mercedes track, but now that we have two teams going against each other, it does add that element of spice that we don't know what's going to happen. And even qualifying was kind of really close towards the end, even though Max actually put out a blinding lap, but the race was really good. So I think obviously that helps when we have multiple teams in a title fight. But yeah, definitely with the tyres, I think there was a lot of controversy after Baku, but somehow the tyre wear was just really high. So I think it's all just how you manage that, really high tyre wear so that we do have these, is it a one stop? Is it a two stop? Two different teams doing two different things, but not to the point where it's, dangerous like it was in Baku with like people, tyres exploding. So I think it's just down to the fact that we have two title contenders in terms of the teams, and the tyres were quite good. I mean, they brought that kind of excitement in terms of we didn't know until the final two laps in terms of which strategy was going to win the race.
Yeah, for sure. It was a really good race. I'm so happy it was a good race because, like you said, I was scared. I was like, God, what are we going to talk about if this race is bad?
I was waiting for the rain. I thought, people were talking about it soon happening.
Although, Karun's absolutely jinxed it for next week. Like, oh, yeah, it's going to be a thunderstorm all week. Like,
oh, my God. Listen, I just don't like listening to Karun Chanduk talk at all. I can't like you. Like...
That was, like, my next question.
Oh, God.
Karun is, like, aside. Like, I don't know about you guys. Like, I'm getting really annoyed with Paul di Resta at the moment. And the thing is, I want to be objective, and I'm like, obviously he is like a driver who's driven in the sport relatively recently compared to some of the other pundits. He is eloquent in his own way. Like he can talk to camera. He's not, in terms of him as a at his job, I don't think he's bad at his job, and even the punditry this weekend is maybe because I'm a Mercedes fan, I don't know, but it just like the anti-Mercedes kind of, I don't want to say agenda, but it's like very like obvious now that obviously like they the rest will just at any opportunity slander Mercedes and Hamilton, or try to make it as if Hamilton's not, he's under pressure, he's this, that, and the other, even, to the point where Hamilton's had to respond to it slightly.
I like that, boy. That was good. I like that.
That was great.
Lewis hears everything. He knows what's up.
For sure.
Yeah.
But what's worse is that after that, Rosberg, who I thought Rosberg this weekend was like...
Snaky.
I feel like it's like he had like a couple of shots of tequila like before he's gone on everything. And just like running around like like a naughty kid He's like, if he can chat shit, he'll do it. If he can like just do some stirring, he'll do it. But I guess, in terms of the media's interpretation of the battle and the media's kind of chat, do you have any kind of thoughts on that, Aldas, or are you happy with Sky's package and portrayal of the weekend? Or am I just being a disgruntled Hamilton fan who can't take people saying bad things about Sir Lewis Hamilton?
No, I don't think. I mean, I definitely agree with quite a bit of what you're saying. There's just something about it's feeling a bit stale. Like, there's something about the broadcast. We've had kind of the same thing, and maybe something does need to change in terms of like the commentary team or something like that. I think that's definitely something that Sky need to look into. But I think, one part of it, and it's someone that, someone who did actually defend someone on, the rest on Twitter. I don't know if he was actually defending him all, but he mentioned something interesting. I think these guys are they're so buzzing at the fact that we do have a title challenge, and they're just like hyping Red Bull up so much because we do have a title challenge now. They almost want to see this Mercedes kind of, the Mercedes juggernaut kind of stop. So maybe that's kind of one of the biases that they have. But for sure, I definitely agree with you that I think Paul di Resta, his analysis is good, and he definitely knows what he's talking about. He conveys information well, but there's definitely a bit of like, he's hyping Max up so much, and like the tiniest mistake that Lewis, and to be fair, the media do, they do this with Lewis Hamilton because he set the bar so high. Yeah. The tiniest mistake that he makes, it's like, oh my God, that's it. He's washed. Career is over. So there is, I think there's worse people out there for sure, but I think something at Sky definitely needs to change because it is a bit stale now.
Yeah,
I think I'm gonna put a tweet out to ask the Americans if ESPN are even nicer, because I might just switch.
ESPN have got Sky. One of our listeners let us know in the comments a couple of weeks ago when we were moaning. Then they've got Sky as well, but they've got Sky with adverts. They get adverts in the race, and they just like
they've got the commercial.
When I used to like stream it, what happens is they would just put the race in like the corner in like a little box, and then the advert is like on the
a big Americans, it's like a big medication.
Big old advert, and you've got the race in the corner for 3 minutes while the advert's going. So it's not great. Big up everyone who is watching. If you are watching this far, make sure you're giving us a like and a subscribe. Thank you. We're so close to 200, which is crazy. We've only been going for 3 months, so thank you so much to everyone who is watching, listening, subscribing, all of that. We move on very quickly. Triple header to Styria, Austria, Red Bull's home Grand Prix. Pretty much Max Verstappen's, or one of his home Grand Prix, between this one and Spa. I think he has like 3 now, doesn't he? Because Austria, Zandvoort. Zandvoort still on the calendar. Oh wow, yeah, I forgot. Wow. So he literally, because he kind of said it's like his home Grand Prix. I was like, oh yeah, it is. But no, it's Red Bull's home.
He has a lot of homes.
He's got a lot, and especially fans are allowed back in. His fans are incredible.
They love him.
They're gonna,
they love my.
They go hard for him, bro.
And it's great to see. I don't think I've seen anything like it in form. I mean, I know you have Hamilton fans, but I guess just the color and the way that they follow this guy around the world. Big up the Max Verstappen fans. Obviously we don't know much about how cars are going to perform in Austria. Like I said, it's a unpredictable season, but what do you guys think? What are your predictions for Austria, or for the Styrian Grand Prix? I think the next one is, and or what would you like to see?
I'd like to see Mercedes pull their socks up. I'd like to see continued growth from Ricciardo. I'd like to see Yuki start his tangent into constant top 10s, but that is a hope that we all kind of have. What else would I like to see?
Hey, just if you want to take some more stuff from me and Aldas, that'd be great.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry.
I want to see all the 20 drivers win the race. All the 20 drivers in the top 3.
No, that's cool. Look, I like it. There's a lot that you want to see. I hope that it can live up to your expectations. Aldas, anything left from the bones of the carcass of that question?
Mate, I've just got scraps here. I mean, technically, I think definitely it's going to be interesting because I think it'll be a big weekend for Lewis because I actually think that Austria and obviously Styria, both the same track, both Max and Valtteri, that's strong tracks for those two. I think Valtteri's won there a couple of times or something like that. And obviously, Max has also won there a couple of times. A really good victory in 2019 where he barged Leclerc out the way. So they're going to be strong. Both of those two drivers are going to be strong. And Lewis Hamilton, I think, if he doesn't win any of these, and if Max finishes either 1-1 or 1-2 in both of these two races, that's going to really hurt his championship. So I think Lewis needs a big weekend because I think the other two drivers are going to be big. And in terms of the midfield as well, I mean, I'd love to see Ferrari have a little comeback. I'm a bit of a, people know that I'm an Alonso fan, so I want him to do well as well. But yeah, for sure, I think it's going to be very interesting to see what it's going to be like back to back, and hopefully we also get some weather as well. So maybe some rain.
Yeah. I think if there's one thing about this season now, I'm no longer worried about if it's going to be a bad race. That isn't just a thought for me anymore. Even Monaco had, actually no, Monaco was pants, wasn't it? But at least there was some intrigue with Monaco, and there was something that, but I guess Spain was a good Grand Prix, and that's traditionally a bit of a snooze fest. And we've had, Paul Ricard throw up a really good race, and Austria is a great track for overtaking. It's always got entertainment. So I'm excited for a doubleheader in Austria. If it's anything like the doubleheaders we had last year, then I think we're in for a really good couple races. What would I like to see? I'm interested to see if Aston Martin can carry on nicking points where maybe they shouldn't be nicking points. I think Seb is in great form at the moment. I think he did really well today. It's nice to see him have some wheel-to-wheel racing as well. Further putting me in the mud with all of the stuff that I've said about him, but I'm happy to see it. So it'll be interesting. Because I think not that they're going unnoticed, but I think they're kind of going back to how they were when they were Racing Point, in that they are maximizing the most out of that car that they have, which has clearly been hampered by the regulations. So big up Aston Martin, and let's see if did Alonso finish ahead of Ocon today as well?
He did, yeah.
He did.
He had a terrible first stint as well. I mean, Alpine. So I don't know anything about Alpine. They were so bad in that first stint. Both Ocon and Alonso were going backwards, and then all of a sudden, just they found some pace at the end. So yeah, it's a good little fight going on between Alpine and Aston Martin. But I think Aston Martin have got it. And also, actually, do you know what? One last little one. I want a big weekend for Lance Stroll because he's been unlucky in the past couple of weekends. Yes. Red flagging qualifying meant he had to start right at the back, and he still finished in the points. Yeah, and then obviously the big crash in Baku. So hopefully a good result for Lance as well.
Yeah, for sure. Deserves it. Well, look, that has summed up an incredible race. I want to say that's one of my favorite pods that we've done so far. Thank you so much, Aldas, for coming through. Most people are going to know where to find you anyway, but just, for saying its sake, where can people find you on social media?
Literally everywhere. YouTube, Instagram, Twitter. It's all the same. Aldas, ALDAS. So yeah, check that out. And thank you for having me on. It definitely was a good one. Plenty of banter and gunfire noises and all that.
No, let's give you a round of applause. I think I'm giving you a round of applause. There you go. Sorry, that was a short one. You can have a longer one.
No, it's okay.
There you go. Thank you so much, Aldas. Make sure you follow him. Make sure you follow us. Make sure you subscribe, like. Any last words from you, Tandy?
Yes. 2 last words, 2 points. Shout out Aldas for wearing the Outcast jumper to the podcast. I appreciate that massively. I love the trio. They're my favorites. And also, I was in Shoreditch last night and I met a guy called Tops, and he said he listens to our podcast.
No way.
Yes. To be fair, he says he's been listening from the start, and he even proved to me that he knew that I wasn't there last week, so that's when I knew that I was a hardcore fan.
That's
so shout out
crazy.
Tom for listening to our podcast.
That's mad. That is crazy. You are just being recognized out here on road. Wow. Big up to all of our listeners. We honestly, we really appreciate it. I think we're we're closing in on like 500 followers on Twitter, and like I said, 200 subscribers on here. And you know, I don't think we kind of expected for people to kind of take us to their hearts as they have, and it's been really nice. So thank you to everyone who comments and follows and subscribes and all of that. We will see you for a pre-race pod for Austria on Thursday. But until then, goodbye from all of us, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye. Toodle pip.